Singer Randy Meisner, whose vocal range helped catapult the Eagles to fame, has died.
Randy Meisner died at age 77 on July 26, 2023. His death came from complications of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. The Eagles' founding member had just opened up about the band before his passing. For decades, we mostly heard one side of the story: the mega fame, the drama, the iconic music. You're going to want to stick around till the very end, because once you hear why Randy stayed silent for so long and what he revealed before he passed, it's going to hit you right in the chest. So sit tight, because what Randy Meisner had to say, it's raw. Randy Meisner's early days with the Eagles. Randy Meisner's story, especially during those early Eagles days, is like a movie, but not the shiny, glamorous kind. It's 1971, and Randy Meisner is kinda standing at this big old fork in the road. He had just left Poco, which he helped start. He was out there, just searching for whatever was next, trying to figure out where he fit in this big, crazy music world. And then, like fate stepping in with a wink, he crosses paths with Glenn Frey and Don Henley. Now, these guys weren't famous yet. They were just playing backup for Linda Ronstadt on tour. So anyway, after shows, Randy, Glenn, Don, and this guy Bernie Ledden, who was a crazy talented multi-instrumentalist, would just sit around in hotel rooms, harmonizing for fun. Like, they weren't even thinking about money or fame at that point, just pure, raw music vibes. Randy even said once in an interview that something special happened when their voices blended. And honestly, how often does that kind of magic just randomly happen? You can almost see it, right? Four scruffy guys, maybe with beers in hand, guitars out, just singing their hearts out into the early morning. What happens when a rock legend, who's been silent for decades, suddenly decides to speak out? Randy Meisner, one of the founding members of the Eagles, kept his lips sealed about the band for years. But before his death, he finally opened up about his time with the group that changed music forever. So why now? Why, after all this time, did Meisner decide to break his silence? You'll want to stick around, because what he reveals might just change how you see the Eagles, and how they really treated their own. So they did the thing, signed with Asylum Records, which was this brand new label David Geffen had started. And guess how they picked their name? It was during a peyote trip in the freaking Mojave Desert. Randy wasn't just a guy in the band. He shaped the Eagles' pulmonary sound right from day one. His experience with Poco and Rick Nelson's Stone Canyon Band taught him all about that country rock fusion vibe that the Eagles ended up becoming famous for. And that voice? Oh my God, that voice. Glenn Frey himself said Randy had this angelic voice that could hit these insane high notes. They used to save the highest harmonies for him because literally no one else could touch them with the same clarity. Isn't that wild? It's like he had this secret weapon built right into him. Their first album came out in June 1972, and honestly, it was a whole mood. Songs like Take It Easy and Peaceful Easy Feeling just felt like freedom. The album didn't just do okay, it hit number 22 on the Billboard charts, which was a huge deal for a new band. And Randy's bass playing? It wasn't flashy or show-offy, it was solid, dependable, the kind of backbone you don't even realize you need until it's not there. Randy even said later that he never wanted to distract from the song. He just wanted to serve the music. And isn't that kind of rare these days? Everyone's trying to be the star now, but Randy was always about the bigger picture. But it wasn't all sunshine and open highways. Fame started creeping in, and it brought a whole lot of baggage. Being on the road constantly, sleeping in buses and hotels, barely seeing family or friends. It wore them down. Randy, being the shy and super private one, struggled the most. Like, he loved being on stage, but all the off-stage stuff, the interviews, the constant attention, the gossip, it drained him. And on top of that, the band itself started having, those creative clashes. At first, their sound was all country rock, thanks a lot to Bernie Leadon's influence. But Glenn Frey and Don Henley, they wanted to crank it up and go more rock and roll. Poor Randy was stuck right in the middle, probably feeling like the kid caught between two arguing parents. Talk about stressful. By the time they made On the Border in 1974, things were already shifting. That's the album where they scored their first #1 hit with Best of My Love. Randy's bass and those high harmonies he sang? Totally crucial. He even said later that On the Border was where they really started figuring themselves out musically. But it was also when they realized just how different their visions could be. Isn't that always the way? Like, you find success, and suddenly, everyone has a different idea of what should come next. And then they hit superstardom with One of These Nights in 1975. That's the album with Take It to the Limit, where Randy completely showed out. His voice on that track? Chills. Literal chills. The song hit #4 on the charts and became one of their biggest hits. But you know what's kinda heartbreaking? Even though Randy had this shining moment, the pressure just kept building. More fame meant more tours, more interviews, more expectations, and Randy, being the introverted soul he was, started feeling the cracks. It's like the bigger they got, the smaller his comfort zone became. Eventually, all the stress, the exhaustion, the never-ending tug-of-war inside the band, it just got to be too much. Randy ended up leaving the Eagles not long after. And honestly, who could blame him? Sometimes, no matter how much you love something or how good you are at it, you just can't sacrifice your own peace for it. You know what I mean? But let's not forget, before he left, Randy Meisner helped build the Eagles into one of the most iconic, legendary bands in rock history. His voice, his bass playing, his spirit, they were woven into the very DNA of those early albums. Without Randy, the Eagles wouldn't have been the Eagles. And that's the thing about Randy. He was never the loudest guy in the room, never the flashiest, but he was essential. The kind of person you don't even realize you're leaning on until they're gone. The growing tensions within the band. At first, it seemed like they were just a group of laid-back dudes making beautiful country rock magic together. But as their success grew, so did the power struggles. Glenn Frey and Don Henley, who were kinda seen as the Lennon and McCartney of the Eagles, and trust me, that's a big title to live up to, started taking the wheel more and more when it came to the band's creative direction. At first, maybe nobody said much, because who's gonna argue when the money and the fame are rolling in? But deep down, that power shift rubbed the others the wrong way, especially Bernie Leadon. Bernie was that one guy who stayed true to the band's original country rock roots, and suddenly, Glenn and Don wanted to pivot more toward a straight-up rock sound. Like, imagine you build something so beautiful and then watch it slowly morph into something you barely recognize. Wouldn't that just drive you crazy? Well, it drove Bernie straight up the wall. And he didn't just quietly pack his bags either. No, he literally dumped a beer on Glenn Frey's head in 1975 and walked out. Can you even imagine being so mad that you douse your bandmate in beer before quitting? That whole moment just showed how far off track they had gotten from what they all originally signed up for. Meanwhile, Randy Meisner, sweet, shy Randy, was caught right in the middle of all this. He wasn't out there causing big drama like Bernie, but you could tell he was hurting too. He had contributed so much to the Eagles' sound and success. But as Don and Glenn's grip tightened, Randy started feeling like an outsider in his own band. Like, have you ever been in a group where you start feeling like you don't even belong anymore, even though you helped build it from scratch? It's the worst feeling. And poor Randy, he just kind of shrank back instead of standing up to them, which honestly made everything even sadder. And then came Joe Walsh. Oh man, when Joe joined, that was like the final nail in the country rock coffin. People were nervous about Joe because he had this wild man reputation, you know? Like, was he gonna be too crazy even for them? But instead of crashing and burning, Joe ended up pushing them even further into that new rock direction that Bernie had tried so hard to resist. It was official. The Eagles that started out as this sweet, harmony-filled country band had now become a hard-edged rock machine. But the music drama was just half of it. The constant grind of being on tour just tore them apart even more. They were on the road for what felt like forever. Something like 11 months straight, between 1976 and 1977, all to promote Hotel California. Can you even imagine being stuck on buses, in hotels, and in each other's faces for almost an entire year without a real break? Like, even best friends would be at each other's throats by month 3, let alone a bunch of grown men already dealing with bruised egos and unspoken resentment. And Randy, he had it so bad. Not only was the endless touring wrecking him physically, he had stomach ulcers, but emotionally, he was barely hanging on. And to top it all off, he had to get up there night after night and belt out "Take It to the Limit," which was like the hardest song in their whole set because of those crazy high notes. Unlike Glenn and Don, who kind of thrived under the spotlight, Randy was naturally super shy. He wasn't built for that level of fame and constant attention. He even said he liked being in the background. And on top of all the drama with the band and the stress of touring, Randy was dealing with some heavy stuff at home too. He had a wife and 3 young kids who needed him, and being gone for almost a year at a time just wrecked his family life. His marriage started falling apart, and honestly, could you even blame him? Trying to balance that kind of pressure with being a good husband and father? It was impossible. By that point, the band wasn't just mad at each other. Oh no, they were mad at everyone. The press, their record label, concert promoters, the guy selling hot dogs outside the stadium, you name it. Joe Walsh later said it best. Conflict was just inevitable because almost everyone in the band saw themselves as the alpha. Like, when you put a bunch of lions in one cage, what do you really think is going to happen? Sure, all that tension might have fueled some amazing music. You can't deny Hotel California is a masterpiece. But the personal cost was so high. Behind all the awards and sold-out shows were guys who could barely stand each other anymore. They had soared higher than anyone could have dreamed, but they left a trail of broken friendships and bitter memories behind them. It's just so crazy when you think about it, right? How something so beautiful and successful could be built on a foundation that was basically crumbling the whole time. For years, he stayed silent, letting everyone speculate about why he left and what really happened behind the scenes. But just before his death, he finally decided to speak. What did he say? Was he happy with how everything turned out? Or did he have a few things to say that might surprise even the most loyal Eagles fans? Keep watching, because what Meisner reveals about his time with the band is nothing like what you've heard before. And the end of his story? Well, let's just say it changes everything you thought you knew. The Knoxville incident. What really happened? The whole mess happened during a concert at the Knoxville Civic Coliseum in Tennessee, summer of '77. Now, picture this. The Eagles had been touring non-stop for like 11 straight months. 11 months. Can you imagine being away from your family, your home, everything, just living out of suitcases and tour buses for almost a whole year? And this wasn't just any little club tour. They were promoting their Hotel California album. So the shows were huge, and the pressure was insane. Everyone was tired. But Randy was beyond tired. He was worn down to the bone. He wasn't just tired, he was sick. He was homesick. He was just done. And this is where people get it so twisted. That night in Knoxville, Randy did sing "Take It to the Limit." He sang it, just like he always did, right smack in the middle of the set, between Lion Eyes and New Kid in Town. It wasn't some dramatic moment where he refused to sing and stormed off the stage. Now, where things really got messy was after they finished the main show and had already done 2 encores. Randy was sick as a dog. He had stomach ulcers flaring up. The flu was kicking his butt, and after 2 encores, he was just finished. He told the guys, "Man, that's about all I can do." And just like that, Glenn Frey flipped out. Glenn, who, let's be honest, wasn't exactly known for keeping his cool, called Randy a super nasty name. Like, the kind of name that makes you instantly see red. And Randy, who was already running on fumes, tried to swing at him. Can you blame him, though? After everything he'd been pushing through? Security even had to jump in and pull them apart. Like, it got that heated. And just when you think it couldn't get pettier, Glenn wiped his face with a towel and threw it at Randy before storming off. And poor Randy, man. He had his own version of events that he's stuck to for years, even though the official Eagles machine kept spinning another story. He talked about how he was married with 3 kids, living miles away in Nebraska and barely getting to see them. Meanwhile, the band was in Miami recording, or on the road constantly. He was sick, he was exhausted, his marriage was rocky. He was just at a breaking point. And then you got people years later trying to act like he left because he was scared of the high notes in "Take It to the Limit." Like, seriously? Randy had been belting that song out night after night the whole tour. He never had a problem with it. And even if he did get a little nervous, doesn't everyone sometimes? Even Elvis used to admit he got nervous before going on stage. But you know what's even sadder? After that blow-up in Knoxville, the band basically iced Randy out. Like, full-on cold shoulder. Nobody talked to him. Nobody hung out after shows. Nobody wanted to chill or even acknowledge him. Imagine being one of the original members, the people you built this thing with, and suddenly you're treated like you don't even exist. Randy said those last days on tour were the absolute worst. He felt like hired help instead of one of the guys who had actually started the Eagles. He played his final show with them on July 9, 1977 in Houston, and by September, it was official. Randy Meisner was out, just like that. No grand farewell, no emotional goodbye. Just exhaustion and heartache. Looking back later, Randy always tried to stay classy about it, though. And honestly, that kind of positivity after everything he went through, that's some real strength right there. Why Randy Meisner chose silence for so long. After Randy left the band, he basically just disappeared from the spotlight, and not in a dramatic, making a big scene kind of way. He just quietly stepped away. Unlike a lot of other rock stars who love to dish out all the juicy stories from their wild days, Randy, he wasn't about that life at all. He didn't hop from interview to interview, spilling tea or dragging anybody. No, he stayed quiet. So, of course, you have to wonder, why would someone who's seen it all, lived it all, just choose silence? Turns out, it wasn't just about being shy, it was deeper than that. He really wanted to leave all the fighting, the arguing, the drama of the Eagles behind him. In one of the rare times he even talked about it, he said something like, "All that stuff and all the arguing amongst the Eagles is over now. Well, at least for me, he didn't want to rehash old wounds or fuel gossip columns. He just wanted peace. But the truth is, his relationship with the Eagles wasn't all rainbows and hugs after he left. When they had that huge Hell Freezes Over reunion tour in '94, like the one that had everyone losing their minds, guess who wasn't invited? Randy. Yeah, and it hurt him, obviously. He even tried reaching out to their manager, Irving Azoff, after he heard whispers about the band getting back together. But they shut him out. Again. Even when the Eagles had their big Millennium concert at the Staples Center for New Year's Eve 1999, he tried to join them there too. And once again, nada. I mean, doesn't that make you feel sick for him? Like, he helped build that band, helped make it legendary, and yet, when the good times rolled back around, he was left out in the cold. And yet, and this is the part that really gets me, Randy didn't turn bitter. He didn't go on rants or write angry memoirs. He told people he didn't hold resentment towards Don Henley or Glenn Frey. He honestly seemed like he just wanted to keep the peace, even if he was hurting inside. It's no wonder fans were so emotional when he showed up for their Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction in 1998. Seeing him on stage with his old bandmates again? It was like this little bittersweet full-circle moment. You could just tell he was still carrying so much love and loyalty, even if the past had been rough. And you know, his quietness wasn't because he was holding a grudge or being petty. It came from this mix of loyalty, privacy, and just desperately wanting to move forward. Everyone who worked with him said he was one of the nicest guys ever. Don Felder, James Taylor, Rick Roberts, they all talked about how Randy was just genuinely sweet, like the kind of guy you wanted to protect from all the chaos around him. Isn't that just the kind of soul that usually gets crushed by the world? But what makes the story even sadder is what was happening behind the scenes. Starting in 2007, Randy's health started spiraling hard. He had this massive heart attack and had to have surgery to put a stent in one of his arteries. And as if that wasn't enough, he got diagnosed with bipolar disorder too. Plus, he struggled with serious alcohol problems that landed him in hospitals more times than anyone could count. And then there was his marriage to Lana Ray Meisner. Court documents from 2010 showed he actually tried to get a restraining order against her because he was scared she might end his life. Can you even imagine living with that kind of fear every day? He said Lana had started using coke almost daily, and that their relationship had just spiraled into this hostile, toxic mess. It got so bad that the court had to step in and appoint one of Randy's friends, James Newton, as his temporary conservator in 2015 because reports said Randy was threatening people with an AK-47. Like, that's how off the rails everything had gotten. And sadly, it all came to a horrifying, tragic head in 2016 when Lana accidentally shot herself during an argument. It was like something out of a nightmare. After she died, Randy was just completely shattered. He ended up in a psychiatric facility because he couldn't even begin to handle the grief. He told a judge, "I just want to get over this. I'm in a lot of pain right now." And honestly, you can just hear the brokenness in those words. He wasn't thinking about fame, money, or public appearances anymore. He was just trying to survive. Through all of it, and isn't this incredible? He stayed true to who he was. Money and fame never controlled him. Even when the Eagles were at their peak, when he could have been raking in insane amounts of cash, Randy chose his mental health over his bank account. He once said, "I could have tripled my money if I'd stayed, but I was just tired of the touring. When it got to the point of sanity or money, I thought I'd rather have sanity." Like, who even says that in the rock world? It's almost unheard of. He knew that peace of mind was worth more than any sold-out arena or platinum record. At the end of the day, Randy Meisner was just this gentle, private man trying to carve out a quiet life after living through some of the loudest, wildest years imaginable. His story isn't full of scandalous tell-alls or revenge plots. It's full of heartbreak, loyalty, and a very human need for peace. And honestly, isn't that way more powerful than any rock and roll headline? Why did Randy Meisner, one of the most important figures in rock music, keep his silence for so long about the Eagles? After all, he helped create some of their biggest hits, but you never really heard him talk about it. So why wait until the end of his life to finally open up? Was it regret? Bitterness? Or just a need to tell the truth before it was too late? In this video, we dive deep into the real story behind Meisner's decision to break his silence. And let's just say, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. You're going to want to watch all the way to the end, because the answers might just shock you and change how you feel about the iconic band forever. Before his death, Randy Meisner finally breaks silence on the Eagles. Randy stayed silent about his experience for decades, like literally decades, and everybody always kind of wondered, why doesn't he ever say anything? But finally, between like 2013 and 2016, in the later years of his life, Randy started opening up a little. He basically revealed that the whole time he was in the Eagles, he felt like he was kinda there, but not really part of it. Like he was standing outside looking in, even though he literally helped build the band from the ground up. One of the big things he talked about was why he didn't want to perform Take It to the Limit Live anymore. Now, you know, people always said he was just scared or being difficult or whatever. But no, that wasn't it at all. It wasn't fear. It was just that his body couldn't always do it. He told Rolling Stone in 2013 that he was shy by nature and honestly just didn't love being under that bright spotlight. Some people live for that center stage drama, but Randy? He was that gentle soul who was happy chilling on the side, playing his music, not needing all that extra attention. Isn't that kind of refreshing, though? In a world where everyone's screaming, "Look at me," here was this guy just quietly doing his thing. He said it was the worst. Like, the worst. He wasn't even being dramatic about it either. You could just hear it in his voice, like he had lived through this slow, lonely heartbreak. Nobody talked to him. Nobody hung out after the shows. He was just iced out, like completely made to feel like he didn't belong. Isn't that just the saddest thing? To start something magical with a bunch of people, only to end up being treated like you don't even exist? I don't know about you, but that kind of stuff just stays with me. But here's the part that really shows what a beautiful person Randy was. He didn't turn bitter, not even a little. He could have been out there blasting everybody, throwing shade, spilling tea left and right. But no, when he looked back at his time with the Eagles, he still remembered the good stuff. He talked about the great times they had, how they partied, made incredible records, traveled the world together. And get this, he almost never listened to the Eagles' music after he left the band. Isn't that wild? He said once they finished making an album, he never really went back and listened to it. Only every now and then, if he randomly heard a song somewhere, he'd be like, "Damn, these records are good." Isn't that the cutest thing? Like he could still surprise himself years later with how amazing his work was. I just love that so much. Oh, and you know how people always think money is the ultimate reason to stay stuck somewhere miserable? Not Randy. He flat out said he could have tripled his money if he stayed with the Eagles, but he chose his sanity instead. Let me repeat that. He chose his peace over piles of money. How many people do you know who would actually do that? He said, And I love this so much. When it got to the point of sanity or money, I thought I'd rather have sanity. That's the kind of wisdom you just don't hear every day, right? So many people sell their peace for a paycheck, but Randy knew better. In his final years, even though he wasn't being invited to any fancy reunions or getting all the recognition he truly deserved, he still held his head high. He faced personal struggles too, but somehow he stayed so graceful about it all. He even said, "All that stuff and all the arguing amongst the Eagles is over now." Well, at least for me. At least for me, like, tell me that doesn't sound like someone who finally found peace within himself. He wasn't chasing after anyone for validation. He wasn't trying to win some imaginary competition. He was just done, at peace, and honestly, there's something so beautiful about that. When you really step back and think about it, Randy's story is one of those quiet, powerful ones that kind of sticks to your soul. It's a reminder that not every legend has to be loud. Not every warrior carries a sword. Some people fight their battles quietly, with kindness, with dignity, and with a heart that refuses to harden no matter how many times it's been bruised. Randy Meisner was that kind of man. And even though he never shouted it from the rooftops, his story deserves to be heard. Don't you think? It just does. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.